So how's it going, our Comic Chat Army? We're here today with Zackary Marois, and you're the creator of, what's the name of the book?
It's Voyage. This book right now is Voyage Melting Pot, so it's the second installment to the first anthology.
Oh, where can we get the first one?
Can't get it anywhere yet, but it's actually on a distribution site called comicsmainstream.com by Adam Watson. He's got other books like Pet Human and 47 Furious Tales from Sinopa Publishing.
Yep, I know 47 Furious Tales. So did you kickstart this book or fund it yourself?
So Voyage Anthology Volume 1, I did that when I was the second year at the Cupid School. I never even got to fund that. And, looking back on it, I'd rather just have that as an add-on book. I'm not saying the book is bad. It's just, artwork from my time right now to then is night and day. So I'd rather have that as an add-on. But you can get Voyage the Call and Voyage Anthology Volume 1 on Comics Mainstream. Voyage Melting Pot I'm launching on Kickstarter right now.
Okay. And do you do everything by yourself? Write it, draw it, everything?
So I do a lot of the artwork. I like to do the artwork myself because there's a certain way that I see certain things for the characters and whatnot. I've created Sonderon many years ago, and I've written the characters so many times, but there was so many points in the story where it was just there was like some holes that needed to be filled, and I got Brett Melograno, and he came in and just decided to fill the gaps when I asked for help. He was my classmate at the Cupid School, and me and him, we're pretty much co-creators of the character because it's not just the drawings that makes you the person, the creator of something. It's also the writing, and if people are reading a product now of what both individuals or how many people worked on, their first impression is the character now, not what it was 3 years ago. So at that point, it's the writing, the physical appearance, and that's just pretty much like the key elements for creative.
Okay. And what's the character right over your shoulder's name?
This is Sonderon, actually. This is I printed him out in a cardboard cutout to shoot for the Kickstarter video.
Nice. What did you say his name was?
Sonderon.
Is he are we following him through the comics?
So Voyage Anthology Volume 1 and Volume 2, those I grabbed over 20 Cupid School graduates, and we all did our own stories. So anthologies are pretty much the best outlet to go ahead when you're not fully finished with the character, but you want to see the character in action, get a feel and understand where you can take it. An anthology is the perfect book to place stuff like that in. So Voyage of the Call was the first book that just focused solely on him, and you got to see how he acts and responds to all these situations in all his glory, and that book worked out really, really well. So after Voyage Melting Pot and Kickstarter, after that's all set, I'm launching the first ongoing series issue of Voyage with Sonderon in September, and then issue 2 in January. So, and then so on and so forth. So it's going to be each issue be about 30 pages on the story alone.
So is each book going to be an anthology?
No.
Okay.
So this is actually my last anthology, which makes this one, this book really, really special. And when I say night and day, I really mean that. You look at the quality in Voyage Volume 1 and the quality in Voyage Melting Pot, you can't recognize some of the artwork from some of these people, including myself. So in Voyage Melting Pot, just to show you how crazy this book is, it's a 200-page hardcover with a dust jacket sci-fi adventure where Sonderon is playing the host, like the Crypt Keeper, and he introduces the reader to all these adventures he's been on. And he's not even in the story, so he just pops up this hologram table, and all these holograms with different characters on them, swirl around him. And that just kind of kicks off the book. He's like, welcome to Voyage 2. and then every single story starts. We have characters like Zone from Dark Horse Comics Presents back in the late '80s, early '90s. We have Scorn, a pot smoking demon who's tasked to kill a villain called Mothman, from like the planet Motheria. We have another character, um, Slothman, byproduct of a experiment created by the Nazis. But all of a sudden, he's in space and he's on a planet called I think it was like, I forget the planet name, but he's on a peppermint patty planet. He's like got a bunch of people that he rules over, but like this weird pig with wings comes in called the Swinelator, and he's gotta like fight that. Like there's a lot of like weird things that happen in this book, but the best thing about it, every single story is so different and diverse from one another. It just really shows how great, how much potential we each have for storytelling, because the love that we have for comic books.
Do you ever open up your anthologies to the public so anybody can join?
Not at the moment,
Okay.
because when I went to the Joe Keeper School, like the rest of my colleagues, we pretty much, it was like a fight to, survive to the end. And when we did, it just kind of happened. Like the first volume of Voyage, when I did that during the second year at the school, that just like happened with the rest of my colleagues because they were all there. But when I always intended for Melting Pot, the sequel, to go ahead and bring some of those guys back and include some other QBs. Ooh, excuse me. So, I've always intended to bring them back, but this is actually my last anthology working with these guys, and for a Voyage anthology, because I really, really want to focus on the ongoing series of Sonderon and his Voyage, because that's where like all the stuff that I've been planning for the past year with Brett Melograno as the writer. We've been like talking about what we're going to do for the canon, for the first arc, and it's just amazing. It's amazing. And Voyage Melting Pot, it's just a precursor to what we're about to like show you. It was just a precursor to the things that I had planned for Voyage issues 1 through 6, because, and then and so forth after that, because that's where we really get into the nitty gritty and we just solely focus on Sonderon, not any of the characters. It's all about him, and we just wrote in to give you a little taste, just about who this guy is. He's an intergalactic space explorer, but before all of that stuff, when we rewind the clock a little bit, he was exiled from his star system, and the first planet he arrives on Alcinar 8, he starts experiencing a lot of xenophobia. No one wants to serve him food. Some people are pretty much trying to kill him, and like, where is this coming from? And some of that has to do with his type of his species alone. His ancestors did a lot of stuff, um, with the history of the universe, and it mucked things up. And like the game of telephone, the more you tell, the more you knows, but the truth starts getting diluted, and it starts to become either fairy tales, folklores, fables, just to, make people learn a lesson. And a lot of that is tied into religion as well. And so he has no idea how to handle this. He only has an understanding of some of it, but he's got no idea. So he has to go on this hero's journey that he's tasked to find these pieces called the Spear and Nod. And there's, these species are, these pieces are so ingrained into that like folklore tale that everyone just laughs at him. So it's a hard find for him. So that's just a little bit of like his backstory, and we just like start from there and we kick it right off.
So everything you just said, is that going to be in issue 1, or is that a span over the first 6 issues?
So everything I said, the majority of what I just said happens in issue 1. it's pretty much like welcome to the universe. He when he was in his star system, he had to learn and thrive and survive on his own. His planets that he had to hop on, um, it was like him trying to rediscover some of the stuff that was his backstory when it came to his ancestors, but he still doesn't know anything, and they're primitive compared to what the rest of the universe is. And you ask yourself, you're like, well, why is it that in space and all the aliens, they travel to all these planets and societies and stuff like that. So why is it that he doesn't know any of this? Well, the Cometan system is considered a cursed system, and no one has been there for centuries, like in eons. Like it's just an outcasted system that no one goes there. It's cursed. It's like the Bermuda Triangle. Would you ever go there? No, you won't.
Right.
But if something from the Bermuda Triangle popped out and started living amongst us in society, they'd act different. We'd outcast them. They're just they're weird, whatever. Just that's just how it is. So it's just like that when Sauron leaves his system, and he has to relearn how to interact and how to handle these situations. And he doesn't know anything about, the basic things like gambling, just how to eat when it comes to certain foods. It's just all new to him. And so in the first issue, it's like an introduction to that, like welcome to the universe. And then the second issue, he starts involving himself in a double cross. He saved like this individual from a double cross that was happening between like a group of like hired mercenaries working with the corrupt police force. And because he interfered in that, it started a chain reaction, of like every good intention he does it, trying to help people out. But what it did is it plastered his face on a billboard, and everyone knows that he's a Cometan. And they're like, oh, wow, a Cometan, the first of his species to ever leave the system. Let's go get him, because either his blood is valuable, or, there's something about his like mentality that they can go ahead and extract. There's all these different things. So it causes a domino effect ever since from that double cross meeting that he saved this person called Italia.
Okay. Are you going to be attending any Comic Cons in the area?
A lot of people have been asking me if I'm going in the summer or later on this year. I would like to go to New York Comic Con, but I'm really trying hard to get this book on Kickstarter to fund, because I really want to take that and sell copies at the shows, tell people more about it. And it's tough because I got to it's a high goal, and I got to raise that amount. And the reason why it's $24,990 is because it's not only the cost to make the book, but it's the cost for talent, the cost for like T-shirts, prints, stickers. We exclusive sketchbook that contains raw images that was in production before we got to the final production to put it into the book. So we have a lot of stuff. We even have commission tiers and original pages to offer.
Nice. And when does this go up on Kickstarter?
It launched on Kickstarter about 5 days ago.
Okay. We'll put the link down in the comments or down in the description of the video for you.
Please.
So what was the inspiration behind this book?
So I wouldn't say it's the inspiration behind this book, but just so it's. Honestly, I'll give you two answers, because it really is two answers. The inspiration behind Sonderon, just to like put him in a voyage, had to have been me reading and paying attention to a lot of sci-fi films and comic books around. And let me ask you this: when you're watching the Predator movie, right? Wouldn't it have been more interesting if you followed the Predator in his shoes, and you got to see, experience the movie through his perspective? What makes the Predator such a bad guy? He's just this guy who comes from another planet and starts killing. Oh yeah, that's bad. But what is the motive behind it? It's a hunting. We know it because of the lore of the Predators that happened in like Dark Horse comics. But imagine seeing that on film. The Avatar, the movie, all the Blue Na'vi people, who cares about the humans? The reason why, in my opinion, I think the reason why that movie became one of the biggest movies of the world at that time had to have been because of that they were aliens. They had a very interesting story, but why is this human element in it? It's just like, in my opinion, it really ruins it. And it's just like the not exciting part of the movie. It's the Navi people and how they, interact and whatnot. So I was like, screw this. When I make a sci-fi comic, it's going to be told through the eyes of an alien character, and that makes it more likable. The second answer is you have a lot of people like me that went to the Cupid School that has amazing ideas. These guys really worked on making these things as different as possible from the rest of what's out there in the comic industry, and they have so much potential, and they're not fleshed out as much as mine was at the time. And I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna force you guys to work on this book because these ideas have to get told. They have to go out there, and they're also good for portfolio pieces. So it gives us a fighting chance to find a way into the industry.
So what was the school?
The Joe Cupid School, it's a cartoon and graphic trade school. It's a 3-year program. It's basically art boot camp. You get 10 assignments every single week, and it's just they pound you all the time with this homework. Like, and you have to get it done with this deadline within 2 weeks or next week, and it never ends. It's a cycle, man. You're drawing so much, like you don't even realize you're getting better, and you're just like trying not to freak out because it's so much.
Is it a physical school you go to, or
Say that again.
is it a physical school, like you go and sit in the classroom, or is it like
You can at the before COVID hit, you can go ahead and go into school. I mean, you can still go into school, but it's just not, in my opinion, it's not the same. Um, you can go into school. You learn through Tom Mandrake, Jan Dursama, Fernando Ruiz, like instructors that's worked in the industry for so many years, and they teach you how to make comic books. And yeah, it's in what do you call it, Dover, New Jersey. So yeah, it's a physical place.
all right? What advice would you give to people out there that want to make their very first comic or very own comic?
I'll be critical with this answer. I think this I'd say stay away from superheroes. I think that superheroes are very overplayed. And what supports that is the stories that get constantly retold and told and told again, time and time again. In Marvel, DC, from every we can give you issue numbers, we can give you story titles, and all this stuff. And superheroes are just way overplayed at this point. I think it's time to move on, go move on to the horror genre, to sci-fi, and really tell new things there. Because I still believe there's a lot less yet that has been yet to be explored in those genres, even anime and manga. There's a lot, and that anime and manga like are booming right now. Like the highest number of sales in this country alone are coming from overseas. Everyone loves that style of art, so I'd say pay attention to those other genres outside of superheroes, and just try to work your stories into that, and really try hard to perfect it, and make self-publish your own book, because that's going to matter. And the reason why is when you go ahead and you self-publish your own book and you try the best you can to make it the best product available, you can use that, take it as a portfolio use for other artists and editors at comic conventions, because you can go ahead and show them pages all day, and yeah, that will help get you a leg up. But let me ask you this, like, how many of these people are going to be interested when they ask you, like, oh, so what are you trying to get in the industry for? And you say, I'm trying to be a penciler, or I'm trying to be an inker. That's just one thing. You have to know how to do it all, and if you do it all, you're going to find a better job opportunity. Either it's a flatter for colors, either it's a colorist, an inker, an editor, penciler. Like, it's all, editor. It's all there. So make your own book.
All right, where can Where can people find you? What social medias are you on?
Right now I'm on Instagram and Twitter. It's the same name, Zachary's Art, lowercase, all together. Oh man, on Facebook it's Dwarf Star Comics, and do I have a deviant art? I have a deviant art. Zach175, I believe, and LinkedIn is Zackary Marois.
All right. Was there anything you want to say before we go, Zach?
I appreciate you guys for having me on, and for those of you listening out there, like I said, if you really are passionate about comics, um, really make your own stuff. Make your own book, and just try to use that as a portfolio use because that's going to make people pay attention to you.
All right. Thank you, Zach.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
What? You mean you haven't subscribed to Comicchatauthority? Oh, come on, subscribe already. What are you waiting for? It's no big deal. Like, man, don't forget to tell him to hit that like button. Yeah, that too. Just subscribe.